Hey everybody, it's Nathan Cool, and I've gotten some questions lately on why do you use so much Flambient? Why don't you do HDR? There's a misconception out there that HDR can actually be a lot quicker. It can be, but you can sacrifice quality at the same time. Now, I've seen some great HDR work. There's no doubt about it. There is some good stuff out there. I chose to use the Flambient mostly for a variety of reasons, and it's kind of hard to describe. A picture can say 1,000 words, so what I'd like to do in this tutorial is show you a couple different ways to do HDR, and you might be able to use some of these actually fair enough for some of the MLS photos if you have to do gigs like that. Also, what you can do by not doing Flambient and just taking one picture that's ambient and kind of massaging that a little bit as well, and then of course just to compare this to what would be a Flambient shot. So let's get started. Ready? Let's go. So we'll take a look starting here. This is actually a flash shot, and it does look flashy, doesn't it? In here though, for this particular shot, I had captured 3 frames. So first thing I did was I captured something that would be fairly well exposed for some of that window view that's out there. It's kind of hard to see, this is a dark room, so that was the low exposure. Then here's a medium exposure, and you can see that's kind of a medium blend to get some of what would be inside of here. And then of course then a full ambient shot. Now this is blowing out though the kitchen, but with these 3 shots, this is where you could do an HDR. Now there's a few different ways to do that. So one, now all these pictures, by the way, I've just run through my standard preset, which you've seen me use in other videos, which is the Tokina 16-28, and all it did was some lens correction. So I'm going to select those 3 pictures for HDR, right click on those, and I can say then photo merge and then HDR. Now this is Lightroom's method of HDR. It gives you very little control. It does work in some cases, and I admit that I have used this on occasion to do some mostly exterior stuff that was very hard to try to blend. But I'll show another tutorial on where I would do that by hand, and that's usually the best alternative. Now you can see, for one thing, it did take some time. And just to be able to come up with the preview, these settings here don't seem to hardly do anything. But let's just go ahead and merge that together. We can see that it's still going to take a little while, and you can see up here in the progress on the top left, it's creating the HDR still. So we're still waiting here. There's no batch way of doing this right now in Lightroom. So I'm kind of at the mercy of whatever Lightroom's doing here. And you can see it's taking a while. This isn't exactly fast, it's not exactly quick, and it's not done yet. Now, it just generated the HDR photo, which would be this one here. Okay. And yeah, it's okay. You can see what happened over here. This is really warm. That doesn't even match the color of what the walls are. And of course, if I were just to take a flash shot, I can see the difference. See the color of the walls? I can see that with the flash. That brought that out. But when I'm leaving it all to ambient, trying to blend that together with HDR, I'm not seeing that. Now I could try some things, like let me go ahead and add like my full bump to it. That really darkened it up. That's too much, but that's okay. I could say let's bring back some of the highlights. Let's take out some of those blacks, up the whites, and maybe up the exposure a little bit. Oh, too much. And I could start playing around with it and maybe get some decent results out of it. I'd have to go in here, do something about the blown out kitchen, so that's not working real well for me. But once again, just coming right out of the Lightroom's HDR, this is what I got. Not all that happy with it. So let's try another alternative. I can do another HDR, take all 3 of these, and I have the Photomatix plugin. So if you have Photomatix Pro, when selecting those, you can go File, and it's File, Plugin, Extras, and then Export to Photomatix. Now it comes up with this little dialog box, and there's some things here. I'm not going to get into it. This isn't a tutorial for that. But what you can do also, this is exporting those now. You can watch the progress up here on the top left. If you have Photomatix Pro, you can also do a batch import. So you could do something where you're batching these together, you're exporting them all as TIFFs, which I would recommend. Yeah, you could do JPEGs, you lose a lot of stuff. And you could have this done automatically while you go out to eat, you do something else. But those are time-consuming things too. If you're sitting down, you're on a time crunch, unless you have a multiple set of computers to do this with, this will take you time. So I'm going to just get rid of the deghost, and if I were just do this one by one. And I have actually some presets in here, and when I'm in a pinch, if I wasn't able to use lights for some reason, let's say it was a tight closet or a tight bathroom, it just didn't work. About 1% of the time, I might do something like this. So I have some presets, but you can see it's still merging it, and we're still not done yet. So I've got some different presets I've made for exterior and interior. So I've got this one. Yeah, that looks okay. I could maybe use this one, but if I do, yeah, that's still not too bad. I might actually use Real Estate Interior B. Real Estate Interior A, it blew out that too much in the kitchen, so I'd rather start with this. Now, I can just go ahead then, once that's set, and say save and re-import. Now this will then fuse these together, and it'll bring it back into Lightroom. Now there's another program that a lot of people use called Infuse, which is another plugin for Lightroom, and supposedly it does a better job. I never really had that much success with it. I liked Photomatix better. So Photomatix now has brought this back in. Also with Photomatix, I've got a lot more control for other work that I do occasionally on some exterior stuff. So let's go ahead and find that guy. He went to, is it this guy here? No. Is it this guy here? I believe that's the one, yes, that came out of Photomatix. Okay, so you can see this is still dark. In fact, if we go compare this right here, I'm going to just go ahead and put a flag on him so I know which ones I've been using here. Okay, so this was what the HDR was that we used in Lightroom. This is what came out of Photomatix Pro. Now I could probably bump up the exposure on this a bit and start making it come through. The kitchen's getting blown out, so I might have to take like a highlight brush and take those highlights down, which I could in here, and I could play with that. You can see though that we've got some real bad reflections going on. We still don't have the color really getting real tight, so that's not exactly how I would do it. Now there is another thing we could do though, and let's go ahead and take this guy here. This is our best ambient shot that we have, and let me just make a virtual copy of that so I can use it for something else. Okay, so with this virtual copy, let's just go ahead and start applying stuff. Like if I were to do my full bump on this, it's kind of bringing it out a little bit. If I go ahead and maybe up the exposure a little bit, you know, play around with this, I could maybe get it, but look what's still happening. I don't have the colors matching very well, okay? So this isn't really giving me a true representation of this room. So that's why, one reason why I really like the Flambient. So with the Flambient, let's go ahead and take our flash shot. Let's take our ambient shot then over here. I'm going to go ahead and right click. You've seen me do this a ton of times in other videos, and then I'm going to say edit in, open as layers in Photoshop. Okay, so once again, this is nothing new. This is just me bringing them in. I'm going to go ahead and apply my align layers to it, and then I'm going to go ahead and set all my Flambient stuff. So we'll go ahead and align those layers with my preset. You can see my preset video and what I do there. Now, you can see that this is on top. That's my ambient shot. If I turn that to luminosity mode, immediately you see my colors came back. So I've already got great colors that are working here. So I can adjust then just the amount of light that I want in all these different places. So layer mask hide, and then using a brush with a, just zoom out a little bit, with an 8% flow. Then I can start painting in this ambient to start making it look a little bit natural. It was dark here because I didn't put a flash over here in the corner, so I'm able to bring that in without having to worry about that. And look, a nice natural reflection coming on the floor. The kitchen over here is dark, and once again, I didn't have to put a light in there. So far, I'm not worried about what's going on here for the detail. I just brought in some of that ambient, and that was all taken care of there. And a little bit of weird stuff going on here with the ambient light. Let's go ahead and take care of that. Boom, brought that in. Excuse me, that was with the flashlight. The ambient fixed it. Looks too flashy on this side, so I bring in some of the ambient. The furniture, that looks a little bit too much too, so once again, I just brush in some ambient light and start making this look a lot more natural. And that is probably about done for me. So what I would do then, I'll just go ahead and flatten the image, and then I just Control S to save it, and then that will be back in Lightroom. Okay, so now in Lightroom then, I just go ahead and I do my quick full bump. That doesn't look too bad, a little bit overdone. So I'm just going to up that just a little bit, take care of a few things. And now let's take a look at the difference of what we have. This is my Flambient shot, okay? This was the HDR shot that was done by Lightroom, and this is the HDR shot that was done with Photomatix Pro. So Photomatix Pro, Lightroom, or Flambient. And for me, I definitely prefer the Flambient. Now, once again, there's a lot of different ways to go about this, and depends on what your workflow is. If you're not really getting the gigs that really require the true colors, you just need to get some listings out there, you got to run and gun and shoot through a house real quick, you could batch import a lot of that stuff into Photomatix Pro. And there are some experts out there on HDR that have really gotten that down to a science and can really make stuff happen. Or sometimes too, you can have a single shot that, you know, is just an ambient shot, and you can massage it. I was able to do that somewhat here with one of those ambient shots, but once again, the colors are really off because of the different lamps. The incandescent was really orange on one side, natural light coming in on the other. When I do a Flambient though, I'm controlling the light, I'm controlling the color, I've got something that's actually going to work, and I can control also where the amount of shadows are being blended because I'm the one controlling the shadows and the light using that luminosity layer and the Flambient blending when I was in Photoshop, instead of letting some HDR program try to figure that out for me. Anyways, I hope this helped in a lot of ways. If you'd like to see me do other stuff with the HDR, let me know. If you'd like to see me expand more on the Flambient, I've got some other videos that do that as well. And I'll also be posting more videos on the subject of real estate photography, how to light some of these rooms, and other fun stuff too that should help you with your workflow as well. If you did like this video and you'd like to see more, you can subscribe to this YouTube channel. It doesn't cost you anything, and as soon as one of these videos is posted, you'll be the first to know. Thanks a lot for watching, and until next time, take care, be safe, and get out there and shoot something.